Hi, welcome to Hey Sound Guy, the podcast where I'll be peeking behind the curtains of the wonderful world of music. Each week I'll be speaking to sound engineers, music industry professionals, musicians, or whoever I think is interesting, basically. As you'll see in my next episode, this gentleman I've met through a good friend of mine. He works as a first assistant director in the film industry, and as you will see from what's coming up, he has worked on some major projects, and it was very interesting to learn all these things that I didn't know. Hopefully you'll find it as informative as I have. It's good to see that the journey seems to be the same in our industry as it is in the film industry, where it's just about perseverance and resilience, something that I've been going on for a while about. Very nice chat. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Justin van der Merwe.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you having me, Jens.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, man. I've since we met each other, which is recently, I've been thinking, man, it'd be really awesome to get someone like you, or you on, since it's not quite the industry that I'm in. But I remember you saying once that you started as a boom operator.
I have boom operated, yes, definitely.
But I mean, this is a little bit out of my field, so I thought you'd be an interesting person to talk to. I tried to get Merwe. So how Justin and I know each other, we know each other through a friend, Merwe McGregor. I tried to nail him down when he was here in December, but he didn't want to do it. So
really?
Yeah, I don't know. He's like, yeah, we'll do it next time. And next time never came.
Oh, you should try and nail him down now. He's sitting at home like everybody else, so he's got time
there's
now.
No more excuses. Right. Okay. So, Justin, can you briefly, well, not briefly, but can you tell us who you are, your name, and what it is that you do? Then we'll launch into it a little bit.
Okay. My name's Justin, and my work title is First Assistant Director to the film industry. That's the title to it all. Mm-hmm. I do work as an assistant director can be really taxing. So from time to time, I work on smaller shows in different departments, such as boom swinging, grips department, camera department. So I try to broaden my skills.
Perfect.
Because I think it'll help me in the end with being a first assistant director.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, like something that I've been saying for a while. It's so good to expand your horizons and expand your, whether it's through trying a different route or a different sort of part of your job, or through hobbies, or through these things, because then it makes you more of a complete person in your main focus.
Yes,
if you do these other things, it then helps you to do your main job to a higher standard.
Correct. To give you an idea of what it is that I do,
please,
is a director or a producer will approach me with a script, and then I would have to break the script down for them. If it's a producer, I would break it down for them for a budgetary purpose, and then from there we'll work out a rough schedule, and then that will then evolve into coming online, going into pre-production, meeting with the director and the DOP, and then we'll go through the script and work out if my allocations per day is accurate. Mm-hmm. And we will then start finding locations and sets and so forth, and then getting the timelines for the builds of different sets. Mm-hmm. And see if that works with the schedule. Actors availability, does that work with the schedule? So to take you back to the breakdown process, for an example, scene 1, 2 characters talking over the internet.
Yeah.
That's the opening of this movie, for argument's sake. Then I would say, right, it's interior, one's exterior, other one's interior. We won't be able to shoot the scene simultaneously because the one's interior and the other one's exterior. So we'll shoot everything to one direction and shoot the other one the other direction. And we would then usually put a green card on the screen that the character is interacting with, and then drop in the background of the other character. And then through that, what costumes are they wearing? What props is there? What set dressing is in there? What makeup look are they in? Is it a period piece? Is it futuristic? Is it past, present, or future, And then I would work out all those timings from the information that I gather from the HODs. For an example, the DOP would say, right, if you're exterior, he's going to need X amount of time to set up the lighting and camera. I would take that into consideration. I would take the makeup and costume application process into consideration from the actors and work out the timeline so that when lighting is ready, the actor is ready, and they then meet on set at, let's say, 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then we then start rolling. So that's the breakdown process for each scene, working out the requirements creatively to make those scenes work.
Yeah.
I then go through the whole script like that. Okay. And on a schedule, for an example, if there are many different scenes in one set or one location, for an example, let's say scenes 1, 5, and 15 are scenes where two characters are talking on the internet in these on these sets, then that would be scheduled on the same day. So in the schedule, when you're shooting a film, a lot of the times you shoot out of chronological order. So for an example, you might shoot the end of the movie first and the beginning of the movie last, for an example. It's a really silly example, but it's just to give an idea that in the scheduling world, you don't go from scene 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You go 1, 15, 25, and so forth, so that you economize
On
the
your
use of the set and the use of the actors, because they might not be available further down the line. So you economize all those things.
That's fantastic. So it's quite a lot of work that's involved in that. You got to, well, I take it. How long does it usually take to put these things together from when the director or producer is approached?
Rough timelines. It differs, to be honest with you, Tian, depending on the content of the script and the size of the script. So, for an example, a major war picture, for an example, to do that schedule takes longer than to do a schedule for a drama piece, purely because of the action and the stunts and the special effects. And
the size of the shots, like the size of the amount of people that are involved, and usually with wars, there's people flying about everywhere.
Yeah, well, that's the shooting part of it, the scheduling part of it. So I usually give myself 10 days to 2 weeks to come up with a provisional schedule and breakdown.
Okay.
And that will be in broad strokes. And then from then on, when we come on board and we start getting all the different timelines from set building and actor availability and so on and so forth, that could be a 6-week process of coming to a finalized schedule with a breakdown for each scene, having all the requirements, prosthetics, explosions, stunts, a second unit, third unit, aerial units, all of those things then get added onto the schedule.
Right. So would, at the end of these 6 weeks, you would have everything basically in place, actors booked, stage builders, everything sort of on a provisional, I suppose, but you've got everything in place, and then it's just go.
Correct. And I also have to have a contingency plan. So for an example, we have an exterior day, but it rained overnight.
Yeah.
Or it's raining in the day and we can't shoot this scene in the day. So I have to have a weather day plan for any exterior works. If something unforeseeable happens, I have to have a plan B or C available, and I have to have those elements available to make that work. So if there's something that we need to move, we can then move and adjust to make it work. So the producers would say, we've got X amount of money. We have to make this script work within 8 weeks, for an example. Then I would go and work it out, and I said, with all these stunts and special effects and things, That's going to take longer. So what I would then suggest is we'll do the coverage on the actors first, leave that location, and get second unit to come in to do all the big explosions and stunt works that we can do with doubles and not with actors.
Exactly.
So the main unit will shoot within those 8 weeks. Alongside them would then be the second unit to come in and do any of the bigger pieces or the pickups for smaller pieces,
Right.
to then get it into the 8 weeks. Otherwise, depending on the content of the script, we may need 12 weeks to do it if you don't want to have a second unit come along and do any work.
I suppose booking the second unit would also, be dependent on budget and availability and these sorts of things, right?
Mostly a budget thing, because the second unit is an entity that runs by itself. So you have a DOP director team, you have a stunt coordinators team, it's like some movies, the second unit's even bigger than the main unit. Especially action films, the second unit runs for longer. They take longer to do pieces because they're so action orientated. You have to do it safely, and that's the first port of call for me, is health and safety, and make sure everybody's safe. So you have to break every punch that gets thrown, every shot that gets fired. You have to break it down to its minimalist form, so to speak, so that you can mitigate any risk to anybody in that piece. So instead of pointing the gun right at the camera, they'll point it a little bit off camera so that you can still see the thing firing, but it's not firing at the camera department itself.
You're going to need a bunch of cameramen, wouldn't you?
Well, it's not. The
previous one didn't make it.
Yeah, but same thing with explosions and all those things, explosions and like for example on Mad Max, we did about 8 weeks of stunt rehearsals before we got camera involved to do the camera rehearsal for the stunt. So we had to work out the car's journey, how the car's going to drive, how's it going to crash next to it, and they had to practice all of that and work out the radio calls to make sure they know what's going on. And they do it at like 20, 30 kilometers an hour. It's really slow to do that, and they work it out.
We're ready.
Then once they've got that, then they say, okay, let's bring the camera platform on. Let's work out this angle. So they'll have a storyboard. They'll work to a storyboard and say, okay, this is the angle. Let's find that angle, and they'll rehearse it. And then after weeks of that, then eventually they'll get to the point of, okay, we can now start integrating props, because there's people hanging off the cars and they've got guns and weapons that they're fighting with. And how's that going to work? How's that going to work with their rigging? Are they comfortable at doing that? And you can't figure that out on the shooting day. It'll just be too expensive.
Oh, yeah.
So then we work all of those logistics out, and soft weapons, hard weapons, flamethrowers, and all of those sort of things. And after all of that's been sorted out, with the camera move and everybody's safe and they all know what's going on, then we'll start saying, right, we're going to shoot this next week, Wednesday. Prosthetics, costume, makeup, all of those things, get everything online to then be ready for next week, Wednesday.
Right.
For argument's sake.
And then you do it at full speed.
Full speed will still be at 30 k's an hour. Mad Max, we didn't go over 30 k's an hour. It was a health and safety prerequisite,
All right. Okay. I guess you don't want people to end up underneath the cars, would you?
No.
It's a bit of a, we lose more actors that way.
And stuntmen. We don't have enough stuntmen for that sort of thing.
Man. All right. So if there's any stuntmen out there, give Justin a call.
Well, I'll be able to put you in contact with stunt coordinators.
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. That's great, man. That's fascinating. And then I take it you'll when you work out all these things, you'll get in contact with somebody like Merwe, who's a props director, or not props director, he's like a props procurement. And like I remember him saying, did you work with him on what's that pirate? Is it Black Flag?
Black Sails. Yes, we did work on Black Sails. Yeah.
It's brilliant, man. It's such a good series. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it because I growing up, I adored Treasure Island. It was just one of my favorite stories, and to get in with the what happened before, and the rise of silver and all these things is that was fantastic. I really enjoyed that. getting to know Captain Flint himself.
Yeah.
In Treasure Island,
Yes.
they only talk about Captain Flint, and you get
Mm.
to see his human side. And yeah, it's that's just fantastic. It must be a really exciting, but as you said, quite stressful line of work as well.
Uh, it is quite stressful because you're working with so many different creative ideas.
Mm.
And every creative idea is important, and you want to give every creative idea its time, and you want to give every creative idea the space to work out what it is that is how we're going to make it work. For an example, something simple, the look of a character. An actor would say, for an example, he thinks his character would need a full beard and big hair, but he's got no facial hair and he doesn't have any. So we have to work out beards and wigs and how's that going to work and how long is the application going to take. And the director may feel like, for him, his character didn't look like that. So you would need to give them the time to work that out and to go through the makeup pre-preparation process so they can test and camera test these different looks on this actor to see what's going to look best.
So you don't just throw in a pair of boxing gloves and you're like, right, guys, you slog it out. Just let us know who decided what.
No, unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. I think it used to work like that.
That would be fun, though,
but
wouldn't
they've
it?
learned from that.
You film it all. You're just like, right, ready, go. Just throw one pair of boxing gloves, like whoever gets it first.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, I imagine that's quite because obviously the actors they're the ones that they need to be comfortable. They need to become that character, and how they have it in their head obviously is it will affect how they portray the character, how
Yes.
how it goes in their head, and if they're not comfortable with maybe they, like you said, actor thought full beard, long hair, director thinks just a little flavor saver and a skinhead, and so they got to work that out, and obviously compromises need to be made.
Yes,
I suppose there's quite a lot of that.
Compromise. There's a lot of compromise. Yeah.
And a lot of last minute fixes.
A lot of last minute ideas. The amount of phone calls I get at night when we're sleeping with an idea for tomorrow. And you have to talk the man off the edge or the lady and say, listen, this is what we're shooting tomorrow. I can't get you a full beard by tomorrow. It's just not going to happen.
Plus, you've been shooting for 6 months without a beard. What's going on here?
Yeah, there's a continuity issue to consider as well. It's a silly example, but you get the idea.
I know 100%. I bet you. And because it must be kind of like walking on eggshells sometimes as well, because especially when you've got so many creative people in the same sort of pool, if you will, each one of them has got their say and their way of thinking about it and their way of feeling about it, and ideas, and then you got to marry all those together. And I suppose who wins the majority of those cases? The director, most likely, doesn't he? Or
not necessarily. If you have a A-lister, for an example, that you've paid multi-millions to be there, and that A-lister says, and let's say, for instance, this A-lister is a Academy Award winner or a Golden Globe winner or something like that, then usually when they come with an idea, they carry a bit of weight, those kind of actors. They carry merit with them, and so you have to first explore that idea before you can say no. And there's a way to say no. You don't just say no because I don't want it. You have to explore the idea. You have to go through the motions of what it means to get that idea to work, and through that process you can then discover that it's not going to work creatively. It's too time consuming logistically, or certain elements that's required for that doesn't work. And then they'll accept the no better because you gave them the time, you gave them the respect, which they deserve. And you've tried, and then you collectively discover it's not going to work. But I've also worked with a director. I don't want to name and shame anybody, but we were in a pre-production meeting, and the director turned around and said, well, I'm going to need a helicopter for this, that, and the next thing. And the production manager said, but we don't have it in the budget. And the director turned around and said, well, put it in the budget. So
simple as that. Come on, guys.
So sometimes you get a bit of ego that comes through, you know. So it really is all about tact. And like you said, it's about walking on eggshells, and it's how you say no, or how you say yes, even, you know. Especially with those A-listers, they're used to hearing yes.
Yeah, 100%.
They're not used to hearing no.
Yeah, but I'm sure that this, you know, it really helps you read people, to be able to kind of, you know, you can figure someone out sort of quickly, you know, with working with so many different types of people, you know, of sort of various, I wouldn't say, well, we can say tiers of
yeah, you can say, you can
talent, of whichever you want, but you know, you get to know a person, like you can suss a guy out within 5 minutes probably. Is this guy going to be, you know, easy to work with? Is it going to be hard? Is it going to be, you know, all
you're right,
fucking hard, or you know?
Yeah, I find a lot of the times, for an example, especially the actors that's made it, you know, they can be really accommodating because they understand what it is that we're all going through. Whereas your newbies can be quite demanding and resilient in that demand. You know, that's what they want, because they don't really understand what the cause and effect is. So, you know, from what I've learned in my experience with dealing with higher tiered actors to not such higher tiered actors, I give them all the same gratuity, so to speak. I give them all the same, this is what they're asking for, let's try and make it happen. I'll go speak to everybody that's needed to be informed about this idea, and I try and give them all the same respect, you know, because to me, these faces, these actors are the ones that's selling the product, and it would be counterproductive for me to try and knock someone down because they're not important enough, because every idea has its merit and every idea needs to be visited. So I try and do that for all the actors, regardless of where they're coming from or who they seem to be or not. And I find that process helps me to navigate with a difficult actor to an easy actor, because they then start to see where I'm coming from, and then I need them to buy into my process, because it's my schedule and it's my head on the block in the end of the day to make that work. So I need them to buy into my plan, and the only way I can get that is to be empathetic to their ideas, and to have empathy for, they want this, so let's give it a try, because later down the line I'm going to ask them to come to work earlier than what they expected, or I need them to work longer than what they expected.
You need them on site.
And because I've been working with them, they'll buy into my idea there. You see what I'm saying?
100%. I mean, it's you know, it's a give and take with all of this.
Yes. Yes.
But it's funny that you said, you know, that the more established people, they are more, they would be more open to different ideas and to be more accommodating and things like that. And if I kind of translate that into what I do, I find the very same thing when I work with musicians who they've been in the game, and they've done the time, they've done the tours, they've got the albums, they're usually the easiest people to work with. And they obviously they'll also have a bigger vocabulary of how to explain things.
Very good point.
When we get younger people in, or people are on the up, or sometimes there's a bit of attitude going on over there, especially with younger acts who kind of made it, who's caught the attention of somebody like a big producer or something like that. It's happened plenty of times where, then the big producer would come in, I'm talking about music producer,
Yep.
come in and put on a night for them at Ronnie Scott's, for instance. And then this person, they react one of two ways. Either they're very humbled by it and they take inspiration from that and they work towards that, and then more often than not, it kind of goes to their head. And then the next thing, there's all sorts of things happening, and it's interesting. I think that's kind of all walks of life. I remember I said to I was speaking to somebody, and I remember from my rugby playing days, when you go for the coin toss, I was captain of my team for a few years, and because my old man, he was a rugby player as well, and he played all his life, and he taught me this: when you walk up to your opponent, your opposing captain, and they're all like, and they're frothing at the mouth, and these guys look like they're really going to get you. Then you're like, man, we're going to run over these guys. Easy, no problem. But if a man walks up to you and he's got calm, he smiles and he shakes your hand, he's like, hey man, let's have a good game. And you're like, fuck, this is going to be an uphill struggle today. Right.
Yeah. Because he's confident.
It's that quiet confidence, and it's that knowing your craft. And you're willing to let's move away from the rugby now, but I mean in our sort of professions, when somebody comes in and they've got this calm and they've got they've got all their shit together, and they'll even compromise, and they'll sort of look at things the other way without throwing toys out of a cot or anything. And whenever you or director man says action, and then it all just like, and you're like, right, I get it now.
Yeah. But also with those guys is you've got to bring your A game.
Oh, 100%.
They know, especially those experienced filmers, crew or cast.
Yeah.
They know their shit. They know their shit so well that they know your shit. And if they find out that your shit's not together, then you'll get replaced real quick.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah, there's a very cutthroat industry.
I bet. And I mean, it kind of is in my industry as well. I mean, if you think the colleges and universities, they churn out new people every year, by the droves.
It is.
And yes, once you and I, once we're kind of established in a position and we've got a track record of we've done our job, so then one fuck up isn't going to get you kicked out, but still you got to bring your A game. I mean, the way I always look at it, and the way I always tell everybody, especially like if I get work experience people, because I get a lot of those, I, as a freelance worker, doesn't matter in which field I am, I consider every work day an audition for my job.
Yeah, you're only as good as your last job.
That's it. Yeah. So you still got to bring it, and
you have to.
I enjoy that element to it. Knowing that you got to be on your game, and it keeps me sharp. Make sure that I know what I'm doing. And it's sometimes you find that you even surprise yourself. Where you're like, oh right, I actually, I was doubtful in my abilities, but it's shown that I actually do know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and it's also when you have to know your story and you have to know your thing, because especially in the film industry, and I'm sure within the music industry as well, a lot of things it's a collaborative effort, so to speak. It's a team effort.
Yeah.
And with any team environment, there's got to be a sense of trust that my team player is going to bring his A game. And as soon as you start losing faith in someone, that's when things can get really hard, because the next time you make a decision and you're right, but because you've lost faith, they're going to start doubting you and second guessing you. And that's a position you don't want to be in.
Yeah.
Especially if you're in a very pressured environment. You need all the support and the the trust that you have from your fellow team members,
Yeah, no, 100%. You can't, you can't be, you don't want to be the weakest link. Um, as long as, second weakest is fine.
Yeah, you don't want to be the weakest, no.
Bad decision.
Yeah, and the other thing about the film business, as I'm sure with the music business, is it's a very volatile industry. It's a very volatile workplace. No 2 days are the same ever. Even if you're on the same stage or the same set, tomorrow from the morning to the afternoon, it's a new scene. It's a new everything. So it's constantly changing. There's constantly new challenges. There's constantly things coming up, stopping you from shooting. And you have to navigate through these things and try and prioritize and see, okay, well, this is important. We need to deal with it right now. Or that's a bit of just drama. Just subdue it, and then we can get on with it.
For a while.
But let's say, for an example, you're shooting and everything's going well, and you have a malfunction, a technical malfunction of some kind. That puts pressure back on you again at your end of the day. So you may have scheduled a nice, easy day. You may have 2 actors on board, and you think, today's going to be a breeze. But now you've had a technical malfunction, not going to make your day, and now that puts pressure back on you on the next day to come back and finish the previous day's work, plus achieve the day's scheduling work. So it's a constant give and take. It's a constant revolving, moving entity. There's constantly elements coming in and trying to steer it off its course. And it's my job to try and keep it going and still consider all these things and say something's pushing us this way. Okay, let's go a little bit that way, but then I need to bring us back this way again.
Right. So you're kind of like the man who built the railroad when the train's already on the tracks.
Yeah, and it's coming real fast.
Fucking lay these sleepers down, boys.
Go, buddy, go. But the rock is hard. I know. Just hammer away.
Hit it harder. Hit it harder, bro.
Just a bigger hammer.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. No, yeah, man. That's fascinating, man. It's great to to get to explore and learn about these different things. I mean, it's how did you come about to be doing what it is that you're doing? Tell us. Tell us first. Are you from Cape Town? Were you born there or?
No. I was born in a place called Pretoria. And that's all I know about Pretoria is that I was born there. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in many different schools.
Okay.
Because my nature.
Yeah.
I didn't conform well to authority, and bit of a rebel. And one day, I'd left school. I'd done a bit of traveling. I'm back in South Africa, and one day I stumbled across a film set. And it was just such a wonderful environment to see from the outside, all these different people. And it's, we joke about it in the industry. It's the rejects of the world. People that didn't fit in everywhere else, they came to the film industry, and this is our family. We're a family of circus performers, so to speak. And that's how I even discovered that it is an industry. It's a world. I never considered it as a job. I never considered making movies as a career of some kind. I never gave it any other thought until I'd actually seen a film set, until I'd actually seen how much work goes into shooting 3 minutes of screen time. It's incredible. It's an incredible amount of planning and meetings and work that goes into getting that into the can. It's literally magic. It really is. And I'd seen this film set, and I walked up to a crew member. I said, dude, I'm really interested. How can I get involved? Because I had no education in that field. I didn't study for it or anything like that. And the guy said to me, you got to go speak to production, bro. So I found where the production is. I knocked on the door and I said, hey, I'm Justin, and I'm really interested in this field. Can I try and get involved there? And they said, well, you don't know shit, bro. So you can work for free until you know something. And you'll probably be making tea for everybody. And that's how I started. I worked for free this was in 99. I worked for free.
Right.
And it was a really, really small industry back then. So there really was a close-knit community. They didn't want any newbies in it because it's threatening to their positioning,
Of course.
So I did a whole feature film for free, and I learned so much. I was what they call a runner. So you run
Yeah.
and you go do what everybody is
Sandwiches
your
and
boss.
this and that.
Whatever anybody says to you, you just go do that. And they catch you out, like for instance, the group would say to me, go to the truck and get me a long wait. And so you go to the truck and you ask the truck, can I get a long wait, please? And it'd be like, yeah, just sit there on the tailgate. I'll be with you shortly. And you wait. And that's the long wait,
Long wait,
So
yeah.
things like that would start coming to you. And through that process, I discovered a lot of different departments. I discovered what it means to be in the lighting department, the camera department, the grips, the art department. So that was the nice thing about being so low in the ranks, is that you can feel your way around all the different departments, because you're not department specific, which was great, because I can now learn from everybody, which is quite nice.
To the department and say, listen, guys, I'm getting some coffee. Who wants what? And you bring coffees, and then you check out what they're doing.
That's right. And then you ask them questions. What do you call that? What do you call this? And how does that work? And so they start learning that you're really wanting to work. And so they'll start giving you all the hard work, like carry all the big things and the heavy things. And then after that, then you'll start helping them set them up. And then you'll get the phone call. Oh, we need some help on the next job. And now you're being paid.
That's it.
And that's how it started rolling.
That's fantastic, man. What is this movie that you worked on, or are you not at liberty to say?
No, it was a show called Pavement with Halle Berry on it. And yeah, like I said, I came on as a casual runner, and that's how I got my way in. I had to still keep my job as a barman at night so that I can pay rent. And then in the day, I'd be on the film. And if they shot at night, I couldn't be there because I had to be in the bar. And that's how I got in, and I haven't looked back since.
That's so good. That therein is something that I've been going on about and mentioning over and over and over, especially since there's a good friend of mine. She's a singer, Christy Korofsky. I've had her on. Okay. She runs she's got a website called The Real Human Musician. And in there, she, it's all sorts of like these little things that people don't focus on, or that they don't talk about, because it's all, and I'm sure it's the same in the film industry. It's all the ups and all the positives and all the this, and you got to big those things up, and nobody ever talks about the behind the scenes. I mean, that was one of the reasons why I started this thing, is so people can get to know what really goes on behind the music, what goes on behind putting on a gig, what goes on speaking to you, what goes on behind making a film. And the thing that for me was the sort of the big thing is the resilience and the perseverance, like you said, working a bar job at night and then being there during the day to learn, and the fire, obviously, once that bug bit you, it created this thing, and you wanted to be there and you wanted to learn, and you would put everything in to be part of it, and then to work your way up to it. And as you said, next movie, like, Justin, we gotta, we need you here, there, and that's how you get going,
and that's how you start. Yeah, totally.
But it's funny you talk about the long wait. I worked when I started sort of my career in this kind of industry. It was I mean, I've been started sound engineering when I was about 15, but in 2005 I started working for a crewing company. And we did all sorts of everything. There was not any kind of film. There were, every now and then we'd go and work there, or on a TV set we'd go and work, but we were basically the guys who unloaded the trucks and set stuff, and it's a proper lugging, what we call it.
Yes.
Then I got to know and started working privately for a company called Heart Productions. And the owner and the boss, really good guy, fantastic guy, Mark Smith. Because obviously on these big jobs, there are always interns, and there are always, guys who want to come and learn the industry. I mean, with this company, we did for the UEFA Champions League final in Rome. We went there. The whole production team went over, and we set up a fan park in one of the parks just up from the Coliseum, where we built a half-sized AstroTurf football pitch on risers. We built a stage. We built like a dome where they played. We put all these plasma screens up in the round where they played all the stuff of the UEFA Champions League up until then. And there was a bar, and there was a this, and there was like a victory walk on the on that walk that leads up to the Coliseum. So all these like the productions that they did were big. We did the Barclaycard Free Running World Championship in Trafalgar Square, things like that, where we build buildings for these free jumpers, the parkour guys, to do their thing and showcase it. So yeah, big productions. But Mark, he liked taking the piss sometimes, you know. Like they did the Grand Prix in Monaco, right? And so whole team gets flown over there. Big thing. It gets televised because, you know, their Grand Prix goes straight through the city. Are you still there? Yeah, you're still there. So,
I am. Yeah. Sorry,
and so he, I think it was like on the third day or something. No, sorry, I lie. It was the first day. He had one of his interns with him, and he's like, so... Great. The producer is very happy with everything, and it looks great and it's fantastic. And we've got how many people are coming in through the turnstiles, so we've got a count of how many people are, you know, looking, and we've got an idea of how many people are watching on TV. But you see all these skyscrapers here, and they were like 12 buildings that are like 40, 50 stories tall, you know, office buildings.
Wow. Right.
He's like, so you see these buildings here. Every time the cars come past, like people would run to the window. So we want to know how many people are in these buildings. Let's, you know, so can you go count the windows?
What?
So this kid goes away, right? And he comes back about 4 hours later with a piece of paper, and he runs up and says, Mark, I got it. It's 4,900. Mark just laughed at him. He's like, come on, man. Things like that.
Gave him the runaround.
Yeah, or a wireless amp transmitter. Go to the hardware shop and get us a wireless amp transmitter. And then you know, the guys at the
see you next week.
They know as well. So he went to Leland, and Leland there. Oh, we just sold our last one out, but we just check with our other store. Yeah, you can go to this store, which is then like 6 blocks away. And the guy runs there and comes back 2 hours later. He's like, unfortunately, they're all sold out. I went to 7 shops. Yeah, good sometimes, but. The guy who counted the windows wasn't very happy. He booked the next flight back.
You got to take those things as a newbie to, I suppose, any industry. You got to take those things. You got to take it like water off a duck's back. You got to have a sense of humor about yourself. You have to. You can't take things too seriously. Yeah, because that's just the way the industry goes.
Be honest and admit that you don't know what the fuck's going on. You know, you'll make that mistake once. You know. Because, you know, as a newbie, you'd be like, maybe there is such a thing. I don't know. I'm not a technical person. I'm just here. I'm fresh out of college. Maybe there is such a thing. There's lots of things out there.
New technology, yeah.
So, yeah, that's brilliant, man. So you did this film in 99, and then you started a 21-year career in this world that you're in. That's great, man. Well, you're looking well. You're not gray, and you're not, you know, you don't look like you're 80 years old. So obviously, you're having a good time with the movie, and it's great.
It's a great. It is a great world. The thing that I like about it most is that it's ever changing. That's what I like about it most. It's starting to drizzle a little bit.
Oh, right.
But it's not that bad.
Okay, cool.
But is it affecting your
No, not at all.
Recording?
I want to sit in the rain, but if you're happy sitting out there, it's nice and...
Yeah, I can smoke out here. I can't smoke inside, so it's great.
That's it, man. Just bear a bit of water then. So you... where did you move when you got the call? Which department did you go into?
Oh, the first phone call I got
Yeah.
for paid work was as a group assistant for a guy called Gavin Horn. He's not with us anymore, but he owned a company in Cape Town called Pro Group, and he was one of the biggest companies in that day. And he was on this production Pavement. One of his team members was on this Pavement production, and that team member spoke to him about me. And that's the thing about this industry, it's word of mouth.
Yeah.
He obviously needed someone, maybe, I don't know how it came about that the people that he usually used may have been on another show. I don't know. But his one team member said, this guy, Justin, he worked really hard for us. Let's get him on board. And he gave me the call. And that was the first phone call I got.
Fantastic, man. Can you just explain, because there's a lot of these film terms that I myself am not familiar with, and I'm sure that people who are in the music industry probably aren't familiar with either. So in the grips department, what does that entail? What kind of work do you do there?
Grips department, as a broad strokes description, is the safety and the rigging of a camera.
Gotcha.
So the camera is on a dolly. That's the grips department. They bring the dolly in, they put down the track, put the dolly on the track, secure the camera on the dolly, and the camera operators will be on the dolly, and the grip will push the dolly and give the camera the movement. Grips will also be involved with any blackout rigging for lighting department. So a lot of the hard rigging work is for the grips department and the safety of the camera.
Right.
So cranes, any of those pieces of equipment fall under the grips department.
So you literally have experience of building the track before the camera.
Yes. I've got experience building cranes on mountains, tracks. The hard thing is if you're on a slope and you need a track, does the DOP want to see the incline of the slope? So now you have to build a track at an incline, and you have to have a pulley system in place as a safety, obviously, to stop the thing from rolling down the hill. And also you need to be able to pull it up and down this incline. So there's that piece. Or does you want it level and have the incline there? So now you have to build a deck. Build a deck first on this incline, and then build a track on top of that. So and maybe sometimes it's a crane on top of a track, so you can have movement of the crane going with the object that you're tracking with.
Wow.
Any rigging on a car, for an example, any shots that you see the cameras over the bonnet and you see the two characters inside the car, that's a grip. That's grips. They rig it on the car. The car more than likely would be on what we call a tracking vehicle, or a low loader or a flatbed. So you park the car on this horse and trailer, and the trailer is really low to the ground, so it doesn't look like it's raised. So it looks like the car's driving on the road. And on this trailer, you'll have lights and sound departments in there, and there's monitors further back for the director to watch, and makeups on their costumes on there, and everybody's on this trailer as they drive around. And the grips would be then in charge of securing the car, securing the rigging for the car, securing the light rigging that's needed for the scene.
For all the operators, etc.
That's grips. Yeah.
Wow. That's quite a broad department, and also the one that grips everything together.
Yes, yes. You can describe it like that. That's grips department for you. Yeah.
Brilliant,
totally.
man. That's fantastic. So you got involved in building the truss and those boom arms for the cameras, and
yes.
That's good, man. And I suppose it's one of those first in, last out kind of jobs as well, isn't it?
Very much so. Because of the time that it takes to build those things, you may even have a pre-day. So the previous day or week, depending on the rigging, they'll come in and build these filming structures to have them in place. And then they'll have a camera test day and a lighting test day to make sure that it's all working. Because you don't want to work out all these things with an entire crew and cast standing by, because that's just too expensive.
For sure. Yeah, and if something goes down, then that's why you have these. That's why you have these test days. That I can imagine that, and it can get quite costly if you've got a crew of people standing there. And as you said, if you've got A-listers and stuff and they're standing around because you got to, the filming's waiting because there's something loose or the bulb's not working.
No, yeah. and you didn't test it prior, then you'll get shut down by health and safety.
Oh, yeah.
Real quick. So,
I take it there's loads of H&S people walking around on site all the time, right?
Yeah. We have H&S with us during our initial surveys of locations. I would usually meet up with H&S and go through the schedule with them, go through the scenes with them, highlight to them any of the risks that I have found and also the procedures that I've put in place to minimize the risks. For an example, if we're on the side of a mountain and we want the camera to hang off the side of a cliff while someone's climbing up, there's lots of risk there, crew members can fall off the side. What are we securing the crew with? What equipment are we using to achieve the shot with? Is it a helicopter? Is it a crane? Is it a drone? And then I would work out these risks and I would say, right, so to minimize the crew's danger, because we're on the side of a mountain, I would say minimal crew. I would have a pre-rigging day to make sure everything's safe, and I would have a designated safety area for non-essentials. Look, for me, every crew member is essential, but then you've got people that are actively involved with the shot.
Yeah.
So they would be allowed to be within a certain danger zone, and because they minimize, it's easier to manage a smaller group of people than it is a larger group of people.
100%.
And I would also have a safety briefing at the start of each and every day, even if we're on the same location for a week, for an example. Every day I'll have a safety briefing. If we're moving on from a dialogue piece to sorry, there's a bit of noise in the background.
It's okay.
Some kids on bikes, they're cool. So if we're moving on from a dialogue piece to an action piece, for an example, I would then stop, gather all the crew and say, right, we're moving on to this next piece of work. This is what we're moving on to. There'll be gunfire, for an example. There'll be fire. There'll be smoke. So with smoke, it limits your vision. So be careful. Maybe we've got wet down floors. It's slippery. So I would have to highlight all these dangers to the crew. And by making them aware of that, I've contained the risk, so to speak, because I made them aware of these things. And by managing the crew and keeping, let's say, for instance, the second and third assistants to one side and keeping all the HODs and the first assistants close to the action for those pieces, then I've also minimized the risk for the crew in that way. So for every piece that I do a risk assessment, and I do a risk a health and safety meeting prior to shooting that, so that we're all aware. Although they know what we're doing, it's just better to remind people of what we're up to, because they're busy with their own thing, and it's very normal for someone to forget something that's not involved with them directly, and now someone walks onto the set and it's a low roof, but it's smoky and they can't see and they bump their head and now we have an issue. But if I stopped everybody prior, reminded them that there's smoke, there's a low roof, gosh, don't wear a cap, because lots of crew members wear a cap, but that limits your vision. So you may not see any dangers above your head, and by doing these things, I remind them of what we've already spoken about, and then they will tell their crew members and we'll make it safely through the day that way.
Okay. So when you go around with H&S people, do you also need to kind of make an assessment of the safety of the location? Say, for instance, you're on the cliff edge now. You got to make sure that the rocks aren't going to crumble. That it's a proper rock and it's not sandy, or there's no risk of these things. Or you're in an old building and there's no, you got to make sure that it's not of a risk of coming down and these sorts of things. You have to. Or do you get kind of safety certificates provided by the people who own the location, if you will?
Yeah, you see, I try to empower people in position. So, for instance, a health and safety person, I don't want them to feel like I am micromanaging them. I don't want them to feel like I'm doing their job for them either.
Right.
So I would take them onto a location and I'd say, look, these are the dangers that I have.
But can you go have a look anyway?
And then they go and have a look, and then they look at my my procedures that I've put in place to minimize that risk, and then they'll have other notes that they put onto that. And it's the health and safety department that ultimately gives us our risk assessment reports for the day. some people like special effects or stunts, they have their own risk assessments that they provide. It's my job to make sure that I've gathered all that information prior to the thing, but it's not my job to create those reports and to create those risk
You're
assessments.
just the one that says, listen, guys, this, and this needs to happen in these locations. You're involved, sound, you're involved, lights, you're involved, camera, you're involved, grips, you're involved. Can you each have just a little look around and see what do we need? How are we going to minimize the risk and these things?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's
correct.
Better than you running around with a pen and a paper. Oh fuck! There's a bit of a soft rock over there. There's a bit, that you've got other.
I'm not a structural engineer.
Hold and singing "Kumbaya" between the actor and the director and.
Yeah. No, I'm not a structural engineer, so I could walk into an old derelict building and think this is visually great to shoot in, yeah. But I would need a structural engineer to come in after the DOP has decided he wants to put gear up on the roof, for example, a light or a light menu.
Pause. DOP stands for director
of photography.
Right. Thanks.
No problem.
Okay, so
he's the guy.
He wants the lights up on the second floor, and you got to get a structural engineer.
Correct. I would then tell the people from the locations department. They're the guys that go and scout locations. They'll then secure the location in terms of the contract for the location, and then also make sure that we've got easy access in and out, parking and so forth. Then I would say to them, right, we want to put this up here, and here. But I need safety clearance to be able to put, is it a weight-bearing roof? Is this a weight-bearing structure? I need those clearances to be put in place before we can come in and do the pre-rigging.
That's fantastic. Man, it sounds like there's a lot of ends you gotta keep together in your job. And I suppose at the end of the day, the director walks in and they're like, Justin's on set, it's all good, it's all taken care of. I can just worry about directing the movie now, because
that's right.
You've gone through everything and you've made sure everything's safe and everybody's happy, and that's
and even after having said all that, you still get caught out on the day where the director's like, oh, I've seen this angle over here when I went to the loo, and I think it's going to be a great angle. And you go and have a look at this angle that you've seen, and it's right on the edge of a building. There's no safety railing, and then you have to talk the director away from that shot. That it's not going to work.
You have to literally talk him
too much time.
Talk him away from the edge.
Literally, and usually my defense is, we haven't planned for this, and so the time that it's going to take will cost you time at the end of the day. Are you happy with that compromise, sir? And if they're happy with that compromise, then I'll go ahead with the plan.
Yeah,
but usually when I highlight it to him like that, look, we've got a big drama piece at the end of the day, lots of dialogue, and it's a really important scene. Well, every scene's important, but let's say it's a scene where there's confrontation between actors, and it's a really heavy emotional scene. You want the time for the actors to be able to explore and go to those places in their performances.
Yeah.
So you don't want to rush them.
Yeah.
So is the shot that you want to do in the morning that important that you want to put that pressure on them? And he would say, nah. Or he would say, it's fine. We'll work through that. The actors are fine, and then we'll go for it. So that's how I usually try.
I suppose they would also know their actors in a sense, way. Because I mean, this is probably a silly, ignorant question, but does the director have any kind of say or preference in who he wants to play a role, who gets approached for certain roles?
Oh yeah.
And then obviously, whether an actor can do it or not. But I suppose they were in the creativity department. They're quite heavily involved in, like, I really want Anthony Hopkins to play this part, or I think Brad Pitt would be great for this thing.
Yeah. Now, usually you would have a casting director. So the director and the casting director would go through the script and see the different characters, and then they would start coming up with a short list of actors that they think will be good for the role.
Right.
And then they would pitch to those actors' agents that this is what they need, and they'll give them the script to read, and then those actors would then buy into the idea of the script, and then they'd come on board. A lot of the times the actors would have their own ideas. So for an example, if the script is written in a way and the actor can't see how it motivates the character to do that thing, they would want to change some things on the script as well, which is usually something that happens in pre-production, where we have director and actor rehearsal times where they go through different scenes with different actors.
It's the
work
table
out.
reads, right?
Say that again?
It's the table reads, right?
Yeah.
Right. So what is the sort of time frame from, let's say, a script gets green lighted, and they're like, okay, we're going to make this movie. What is the process? Is it, when would the director then get involved? Would it be the film house, for instance, that says, okay, we have a script that's been green lighted, we're going to have a budget for this, but now we need to get X, Y, and Z on board, and director, and all these sorts of things? What's the sort of the process, what's the timeline from? Is it 2 weeks? Is it months? I suppose you got to see as well when actors are available.
You've just hit the nail on the spot there. Let's say, for instance, a producer's got a great script and he's got funding for it, right? A director that's established would have a certain pool of cast. Actors want to work with that director, and so they'll throw themselves at him to make it work. Some actors would only sign on if another actor has signed on, So, for example, a female lead would sign on if this male lead signs on, so they know that their chemistry on screen would work well for this thing,
And you don't want to go kiss a mountain troll, do you?
To answer your question, it's really hard because there's so many variables per script. No two scripts are the same, and no two shooting processes are the same. So from when you get greenlit, by that stage, from you've been greenlit, you've already got a director on board.
Yeah.
You've already got a production designer they've given mood boards in, and they've gotten storyboards in, and they've given treatments in to get the funding, so they've got a script, and then they've got all these creative portfolios that they've added to the script so that the people with the money can see, oh, it's going to be a space movie, and this is the type of space movie they're going to be making. These are the characters that they're pitching for. As soon as you got the green light, then certain actors would start falling into place, and then it's like a domino effect. You've got to start one side, and then all the other dominoes
Fair enough.
start
So,
falling in place.
What I'm asking is, like, for instance, when the call goes out, director needs this, and this actor. What's like the turnaround time for actors to get called in, do their audition, do a screen? What do they call it? The face. What do you call those when they do like a read on camera?
It's a camera test.
Camera test. That's the one. Sorry. So how long is it? Like 2 weeks for those things to get?
No, it's a bit more than that. Look, you're talking about 3-4 months.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I was thinking sort of like that. I was kind of leaning towards 6 months, but I started on the 2.
Yeah. Someone like, for instance, Christopher Nolan, right? He's making a mega production. It's years of planning, writing, finding a character. Oh, you like this script? Then it's another character that they have to find, and then work out when those characters would be available at the same time. Book them prior to the show. It's a long time. By the time they arrive, let's say, for instance, in Cape Town, South Africa, and they want to shoot, they've already got so much in place. They've been to Cape Town. They've already scouted locations. They've already pitched these locations as a look and feel for the film, and they've got approval for that. So by that stage, so much has happened already, and for that to have happened, it's months and months and months of work to get to that point.
Right.
It's a really long process.
And I take it you're involved with this from the beginning, right?
Not so far in the future. I'm involved from, it's like I'm involved part-time to begin with. Like, I get a script, break the script down for a budgetary purpose, send it off, and then they'll work it out. And 2 months later, they'll come back to me. Oh, okay. So we have now a director. So the producer had a script. He's got a schedule for it and he's worked it out. And now they've got a director that's interested. So now I meet the director and we chat about how he sees it happening and how he likes to work. So it's kind of like my interview, you know. And then they'll give me a rewrite of the script. So I'll have to break it down and schedule it again, you know. And then another month would go by and they would have been to South Africa to have scouted it with the local producers and a local location scout. And then they go away again. And then they come back and then I'll start coming on board in a more full-time timeline. So my timeline from when I start to when we're shooting, for an example, my pre-production process is more or less around about 6 to 8 weeks, if I'm lucky. 8 weeks before we start shooting. And in that 6 weeks, it's the assistant director's department's responsibility to run the pre-production schedule as well. In flights, in makeup tests, camera tests, costume fittings, stunt rehearsals, explosion tests, special effects, prosthetics, for an example. You get special effects prosthetics, which is an arm that gets cut off and there's blood spewing out. You've got to test those things. They got to get fabricated, and they got to get molded to a specific actor. You know, so you got to get the actor
use as well, aren't they? So
so all these things we schedule into the pre-production process so that it's all sorted out by the time we start. And a lot of the times, more often than not, you don't finish it all by the time you start shooting. So you start shooting and there's still pre-production type work happening as you're shooting. So that for week 4, 5, and 6, for example, they're still testing and rehearsing and working out those things while you're shooting. So I'm usually on like a 6-week pre-production timeline to try and get it done prior to the shoot.
So I take it by the time then that they they get you involved, it's like it's happening. It's definitely happening now. It's Justin, we need hotels booked, we need flights booked, we need we need these kind of it's a
no. Hotels and flights, that's a production thing. Okay.
That's a production.
I deal with I deal with the demands of the script and the schedule, the shooting demands, the demands of the film, the logistics, the gear booking, the crew booking, accommodation and flights. That's production's responsibility. They'll sort those things out. You'll have an accommodation coordinator, you'll have a flights coordinator, you'll have a gear coordinator, and they'll take care of those logistics for those things.
Right. Cool. That's that's good. You don't have to be liaison for artists and producers, and it's like
also
they've all got sort of like chaperones and hangers along and agents and making sure that people are at the right places at the right time, so you don't have to fucking call someone at 4 o'clock in the morning saying, "Oi,
well, no. It's part of the assistant director's department. So in the assistant director's department, you have a first assistant director, right? He's the head of the assistant director's department, and he would do the pre-production and the shooting schedules. He would make sure that we're adhering to different union rules for cast and crew, and he would make sure that we're adhering to individual crew cast members requirements. Certain actors would need X amount of close-ups per movie. They'll need X amount of screen time per movie. Some actors don't have that in their contracts, so you're going to make sure that's all in place. And it's this director's department that commutes out. Some have 15 different people giving information to the actor, because who do they listen to? So it's the second assistant director or the cast coordinator who then talks to the cast members, phones them at 4:30 in the morning saying, "Yo, your driver's outside, you better get a hustle on." So you've got your first assistant director, your second assistant director. Second assistant director does a lot of the back office work, a lot of paperwork, a lot of the what we call a call sheets. A call sheet is a document that we create for what we're shooting for the day. It'll have the scheduled work on there and also the requirements per scene, your props, your explosions, and everything goes onto that document, including your risk assessments per department gets attached to the document, and a map how to get to the location. Right? Then you have a second assistant director and a third assistant director. They're usually with me on set to help me wrangle the cast, to help me wrangle the extras, communicate to the crew, lock off the set to make sure we don't have public walking through, that sort of thing. They'll help me with the general maintenance of the set and the cast, food, drinks for the actors. That's your PAs and your third ADs. They start doing those things for the actors.
Right.
While at base camp, you'll have your second assistant director making sure that the actors for scenes 3 and 4 for the day, they're going through the works, they're being called and picked up. They're making sure that actors that are coming next week have their visa sorted out and they have got their travel itineraries and that sort of thing. So second assistant director is more of a back office administrative position.
So you're basically in charge of keeping this whole thing going, and a lot of people and a lot of moving parts that you gotta have a handle on. So
Yes.
yeah, wow, that's wow.
That's the assistant director's department. We do all of that. We make sure that we try to make sure that everything's in place prior to the time, and for me,
you're the one that gets the canvas and the paint and the brushes and the recreationals for Picasso to do his masterpiece, and you're like, there you go.
And then I go to Picasso and I say to Picasso, "You walk away. It's enough now. We're gonna move on."
Enough paint. This thing is about an inch thick with paint. Okay, enough is enough. We don't have money for paint anymore. Okay. Brilliant.
Yeah, exactly.
Know that Pablo Picasso, he did sort of because he was quite a extrovert, quite an out person. He knew who he was.
Are you there?
So, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, you're there.
Yes, back. Right. So, Pablo Picasso, what he did was I think sort of towards the end of his life, he started, I heard this, I don't know how true it is, but he would pay for things with little drawings and stuff. So instead of paying for lunch, he would make someone a little drawing and sign it. Picasso.
Right.
So he went around and he hustled quite a bit, walked around with money. And so there's now I've seen there's a resurgence of all these people that have held on to these little Picassos.
Wow.
That are now just like, it might just be a napkin drawn with a little something, and then it's signed by Picasso. So all these things are coming out the
wow.
At the closets and out the storage, and my grandmother knew Picasso and these and those, so it's quite an interesting thing about him. It's if only my signature could pay for lunch, that would be great, wouldn't it?
Well, it does, but I still pay for it.
That's true. Yes, and those checks.
Yes.
Just wait till they all bounce. That's why you never do business with a bunny, because all the checks bounce. Yeah, lovely, man. That is so interesting to hear about this industry, because it, like I said, it's something I don't know too much about, and it's very interesting. Our housemate, he's a fantastic guitarist, incredible musician, but he's recently decided to do the acting thing. He's currently studying as well. He's been in a couple of short films, and I'm getting to know that side, that world a little bit more through chatting to him and stuff like that. But it's a very, very interesting game. It's a very interesting world, and it's good to see that people kind of get into this in the same way that they do. Well, the majority of them, anyway, the people who didn't study, and even if they did, like you said, it's almost cutthroat, and it's also very, you got to be on your game, and you got to have the willingness to work a bar job at night and then do the job during the day for free to get your foot in the door.
Correct.
It's all about that passion and that resilience, and like you said, for you, trying out the different departments, seeing what they do and how they do it, just to bring your craft to a more full circle. I think That's
the more I understand about what you do, the more I'm going to be able to help you.
Yeah.
The more I'm going to be able to consider what it is that it takes for you to deliver. If I don't know what it is that you're going to do, and I don't understand what it takes for you to deliver that, then I'm going to shortchange you and put you on the pressure, which is counterproductive to and to the picture.
Yeah.
So I find the more I expand my horizons, like you said earlier, the more I can take into consideration what it is that you need. For an example, I've got a lot of experience in prosthetics. Not that I've worked in prosthetics myself, but I've worked on a lot of films that need prosthetic applications, a makeup prosthetic application or a special effects prosthetic application, and the timelines that it needs and the pre-planning of those things to have them in place. For an example, if you need someone with a cut-off ear, that's going to take an hour and a half of makeup in the morning to have that application put on. I need to know that because the actor, for an example's deal is they've got 12 hours from when you drop them off to when you pick them up. Then they travel to set, then they start their day. So now we start an hour and a half on the ear.
Yeah.
So from when I've picked them up to when they come onto set is at least a 2-hour deal now. So now I've only got a short amount of time to shoot with them on set because you're going to need another 45 minutes to take this application off at the end of the day to get them back home so I can turn them for 12 hours and get them back the next day. So
the they'll just hit them really hard on the other side of the head so it pops off.
Not quite, but so,
that
the
would
more
be
I understand about these things, the better schedule I can produce and a realistic schedule I can produce. It's not always the thing that the producer wants to hear because these things will expand and cost, and the more it expands, the more money it costs them. But also, if you don't consider these things and you have a problem, it's going to cost them more.
Yeah, and also it comes back onto you. It doesn't reflect so positively onto you.
Yes.
You should have known, Justin.
Why didn't you ask the question?
Exactly. How did you know that you didn't know?
How did I know to ask that question? From years of experience.
That's it. But also, I suppose in this way, when you do that, you go into these departments, you work alongside them, not necessarily getting your hands dirty, but you get to know the people, and then you build relationships with these people. So when you show an eagerness and a keenness to know what it is that these people do and how they do it, you form relationships, and then obviously those people might even be a little bit more on board with you to, work an extra half an hour, an extra 10 hours, whatever.
Or work faster.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
The best one, just with the faster. I watched this thing about Arnold Schwarzenegger was doing the speech about time management and, how to achieving your goals and these and these and these. And he goes on, it's like, so your day isn't 24 hours. So we think you sleep for 6 hours. And then everybody's like, no, you should sleep for 8. It's like, those of you out there who think you should sleep for 8 hours, just sleep faster.
Get
meaningful rest. Fit it into 6 hours.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
But the thing is, with an assistant director, for me at least, you and for most people, is you don't walk onto a film set and you're the first assistant director. You have to start off as a PA or a runner, and then you become a third assistant, then the second, then the second AD, and then the first AD. So through that process of going up the ladder, so to speak, you're learning about prosthetics, about special effects, and so forth, if you're paying attention, and then you start to learn, all right, to put on a ear that's not there, it takes that amount of time, and it takes time to take it off again, and you learn that multiple times through multiple movies as a third assistant director. So by the time you're a second assistant director, you know these things already. And when you're planning their pre-production for them, they're going to test an ear application. So you're going to give them at least a day to test it, so that on the day of shoot, all they need is an hour. So the more time you give them in the pre-production to sort it out, the less time it'll cost you on the scheduled day.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
No, that's great. I definitely, I think we need to, if like you said, You gotta know your craft, and you need to know
You're gonna
about
know other people's
all
crafts
the
as well.
cogs and all the spinning wheels and everything that
Yes.
keeps the house afloat.
Yeah.
It's very important to.
And also the logistics to shooting a film on water, boat to boat filming, is a completely different logistic to shooting on snow.
I can only just imagine.
So it's a whole new game.
Yeah.
It's a whole new game, and the only way you're going to learn these things is by being involved on those shows. So if you've never been on a water show, don't accept a high responsibility position because you don't know. It's better to take a step down and still go and do the show and learn what it means to do a boat-to-boat transfer. How long does it take to get the makeup department from port to the boat? How long does it take to get the actors there? And what does it mean? How many support boats do you need? How many crew boats do you need? How many gear boats? So you need platforms and barges for this gear to be floating on next to the boat so that you can work with them. And they're all in shot, so you have to move them around the boat.
So this is definitely not the type of situation to float your own boat, right? It's best to be humble.
Correct. And then the same thing goes with snow and in the desert and in the jungle. All these things, all these elements have their own demands, and those demands cost time. And it's better to adhere to that and not to try and shortcut it, because it will come back and bite you.
100%, man. I think, shortcutting and things like that it's really a fool's errand. It really is, because you may get away with it one time, but eventually it's gonna come and it's gonna, catch you out in a big way. And it's the same thing with what you said. I think humility is such an important thing and so overlooked, especially in an industry that's so, go get and cutthroat, and, you get people blagging so much. And then, when it comes to crunch time, then they get caught out. That's, detrimental, not just to them, but to everybody, to the whole project.
To the production,
And, if you get caught out like that, I don't think you're going to be walking on a set anytime soon. So, humility is a very big thing, and it's a very important thing.
Totally.
To be able to say, listen, yes, I can do this, or no, I can't do this. I find in that sort of case, honesty is definitely the best policy. There's no point in messing about and fucking making promises that you can't keep.
Totally.
So
it's the responsible thing to do. It's the right thing to do. It really is, especially from a health and safety perspective. If you don't know anything about shooting on water, you are putting a lot of people's lives at risk. Never mind the integrity of the production. It's people's lives that are at risk here. You didn't check if people can swim? What do you mean?
What? Sharks? What? This is Cape Town. Shit.
Of course there's sharks.
Of course there's fucking sharks. We got all the sharks, mate.
You mentioned black sails earlier. The funny thing with black sails is I was working on a show in Cambodia with Angelina Jolie, and they had a problem on black sails. What's that?
I'm so sorry that you had to work with her.
No, she's a pro. She's a pro.
I was being totally sarcastic. She's like, I fucking love Angelina Jolie, man.
She's real. She's sure. I would work with her any day of the week, but we earlier we said you've got to bring your A game. With that type of caliber, you got to bring your A+ game every single day. Nonetheless, I was working on that show, and they had issues on the Black Sails production, and they needed someone to step in. One of their assistant directors had hurt his leg, and they needed me to come in because one of the other people knew me, and they put my name forward, and so I got the call. I said to them, as soon as I finish this show, I'll fly back to South Africa. So I flew back to South Africa, and they were already shooting, so I didn't have that pre-production time that we spoke about earlier. So a lot of meetings regarding the sequence that we were shooting had been held prior to my arrival, and those notes didn't come through to me. And so here's what happened. We have to do the scene where a ship is being attacked and a mast is falling off and people are falling off and there's gunfire and there's other guys shooting and there's bombs and all these things happening, and we're doing stunt rehearsals and we're getting it all sorted out. And come the day of shoot, I've got the people in the water and we're shooting and we're carrying on, and suddenly I've got two producers and the costume persons standing there, and they're all very angry with me. And so in between setups, I'm like, okay, hey guys, what's going on? What's going on here? We had a meeting, they tell me, and we agreed that only X amount of people would be half wet, other X amount of people would be completely dry, this, that, and the next thing. And I turned around to them and I said, but didn't you read the script? And they're like, what do you mean? I said, well, they evacuating the ship.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to get wet. I don't understand. What do you mean they're going to be dry? They're getting wet just getting to the ship, never mind the action piece. And what it turned out to be is they needed those costumes the next day for a different scene. And those costumes needed to be dry. And they couldn't get them dry overnight. See how a small anomaly like that can have a ripple effect that's really costly. And that was my bad, because I needed to ask these questions and I don't know. What do you mean?
Well, I think, in a situation like this, you're definitely excused. I
got lashed, my friend. I got lashed hard that day.
Eish. Yeah. No, and it's not ideal to be placed in this kind of situation. The only thing that I mean, obviously not on this scale, but the only thing that I can kind of relate to is how we do, if we've got a band in, say, for 4 days, right? You do the sound check, and then you do every gig of that band, in a venue like Boisdale or Ronnie Scott's, where I work.
Okay.
If you go on tour with a band, you're their engineer. That's it. That's the end of the day.
Okay.
That's it. But if you're, as a house engineer,
right,
it would happen, say, a band's in for a week. Some bands are in for 2 days. Some bands are just one night. But if you're the principal engineer, you're going to be there from the sound check. You're going to be from setup, sound check, and then you're going to go through with the band until they've completed their stint, however long it takes.
Right.
But it has happened before, and even though, there's only so much that you can do in the scope of being a sound engineer and doing the sound for a band, but I can only really sort of compare it to walking onto somebody else's mix, is what we call it. And it's happened not very often. Somebody's got fucking diarrhea, right? He can't make it in today, so you step in. But that is one of the hardest things, really, because first of all,
the IP, there's intellectual property.
Yeah, it's not good to do with that. It's more, I'm talking about, for the live gig. It's like the principal engineer would have had the sound check time and the first or second or third day to build a rapport with the band, to have a relationship and to know the music, because we don't know all the music. We don't know every song from every band that comes past there. So, we mix a thing as we feel it and as we see it. In sound check time, you get some time to kind of get to know with the dynamics of the band, how they play. Are they loud? Are they soft? Are they fast? Are they quiet? Are they, would they be able, or would they be willing for you to add reverb or delay? What kind of music is it? Is it music? Is it straight ahead jazz? So you got to kind of know, is this vocalist, all out there in space here? So that's the only thing that I can kind of compare is like walking into someone else's mix. And, things.
That's a very good comparison.
Things might have been discussed in the first, second, third day, like this song,
correct,
this off. And, you really can't, if you haven't been
see all those things
process from the beginning, it's really hard to to just rock up and bring your A game. You got to bring your A game, but I mean, there are unforeseen things. but it's the only thing that I can kind of compare it to. I don't think that it's a very comfortable position to be in. I'm sure you weren't 100% happy about it.
I wasn't, but they offered me good money, so I was happy to put up with the discomfort.
Oh no, of course. And also, I mean, your integrity is there. You said yes to the job, so you're going to be there regardless.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we have to eat mountains of shit to fucking to you know, to be there, and to you've said yes, so that's it. You know, there's no and then show them what you can do. Hopefully, you didn't get too much grief. You know,
no, I just got a bit of a lashing, and then you know what? Going forward on that production, whenever we had our stints that we had to do, because I specialize mostly in action pieces, so from then on going forward, we would get an action piece to do. Then I would go to all the departments and say, listen, is there any notes that you guys had prior to my arrival that I need to be aware of this? And so they quickly got onto the fact that give this guy a break and give him all the information. Sorry that you have to repeat yourself now, but I'm the new guy and I'm just trying to make it work, you know. They got on board.
Less time explaining to me than us having to do it again.
Yeah, have the producers come in and ask me all these hard questions.
Do you find that you walk around with like a little voice recorder so you can, you know, go over things again? You know,
especially in meetings. Yeah, in meetings I do that. In the pre-production meetings, when you're having concept meetings and you're talking about different ideas with different creatives, I usually try to record those conversations, and I tell them prior to the fact that, listen, I'm recording this conversation not so I can take it to court, but so that I can recap on what's being said, you know, because there's so much information that gets passed around that you will forget it, you know, and you've got to write really fast to keep up. So I just record it, and then when I get home or when we finish the meeting, I will then spend an hour or two dissecting what has been said, and then I have to distribute that information. So they spoke about costumes. I would have to give the costume set up meeting with the director and the costume and go over those things and talk to the departments on board.
Yeah. Hello.
Are you there?
Yeah. Sorry, it just went away for a bit.
The siren.
Siren. Yeah. Maybe it's a good time for us to stop it, because these, I don't know, internet connection, once it starts hanging too much, it's gonna bug out.
Oh, okay.
But man, I really enjoyed this, getting to know your world a little bit. Thank you so much for explaining things and having the patience and talking through it with me. I really enjoyed.
Anytime, if you find that if you find that any of the people that have listened to this episode or podcast and they've got more questions, I'm open to you restarting another conversation with me and going through some questions if anybody has any questions, and if I can answer them, hopefully.
Great, that's fantastic. I appreciate it. Yeah, I really do appreciate it. And yeah, man. Hopefully you'll be heading home soon once this quarantine's over, so you can go make some more movies.
Yeah, hopefully.
Great.
Can't wait to get back to work.
I bet. Yeah, everybody's in the same boat, man. I'm still don't have enough time in the day to do everything that I want to do, which is, I suppose, it's a better way than getting bored. But yeah, got a bunch of projects and things happening. So
cool.
How have you been keeping yourself busy apart from reading books?
A friend of mine has started they want to do a live show of the Serengeti. I'll forward you the link so you can have a look-see.
Oh, nice.
And he's asked me to help him with the planning of his work. So are you still there? Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm a little bit involved with that as well.
Fantastic.
Just helping him set up processes, how to set up his paperwork, and he's sent me his schedule, and I've had a few notes on the schedule. It's a bit ambitious because they're working with wildlife, you know. No. With actors, you can stage them. With wildlife, you have to just take it. So to give yourself one day to shoot that, maybe that's not the best idea, you know. So luckily I've been involved with that as well. So that's been keeping me busy too.
That's fantastic. That's great. Listen, I'll be posting in the description, links to whatever you're happy to share, social media, Instagram, whatever, and then, if people are keen, they can get in touch. If not, then, but we'll put all those in. We'll discuss it later, and then I can put in whatever you're happy to put in.
No problem. Anytime, bro.
Thank you so much, man. I had a good time.
Okay, Tins.
Cheers. Hey,
take it easy. Ciao, ciao.
Right. Well, there we have it. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I have, and that you've learned as much as I have about the behind the scenes of the film work, the film industry. Something that I wasn't too familiar with, but I am a little bit more familiar with it now. And thanks you to Justin for agreeing to come on the podcast. I will be sharing his social media, as will I do mine. You guys can catch up with us there and see what we're up to. As always, like, share, subscribe, get the word out there. Keep it sound.